If you have ever been in pain and heard someone say, "Just stay positive," you already know how confusing that advice can feel. On the surface, it sounds kind. It sounds hopeful. But when you are truly struggling, when something has gone wrong, when you are grieving, anxious, or deeply disappointed, it can feel as though your real experience is being quietly dismissed. In moments like that, positivity does not feel supportive. It feels lonely. At the same time, many people today are turning to Stoicism for relief. They hear that Stoics do not complain, do not panic, and do not let life shake them. But this, too, is often misunderstood. Stoicism is not emotional numbness. It is not pretending that pain does not exist. In fact, the great Stoic philosophers, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, wrote extensively about fear, grief, anger, and loss. They were not trying to escape human suffering. They were trying to understand it clearly. So here is the quiet question we will explore today. What is the difference between healthy resilience and emotional denial? Toxic positivity tells us that negative emotions are problems to be erased. It teaches us to smile over wounds and to call that strength. Stoicism, however, teaches something far more grounded. It says that pain is part of being human, but panic, despair, and self-destruction are not. It invites us to face reality honestly, and then respond with discipline, courage, and wisdom. In this video, we will gently separate these two paths. One path avoids suffering by covering it with brightness. The other walks through suffering with clarity and self-respect. If you are seeking peace that does not require you to lie to yourself, this conversation is for you. What Stoicism and toxic positivity really mean. Before we can understand the difference between Stoicism and toxic positivity, we must first define them with care. Many people think they already know what these words mean, but most of the confusion begins right here. Stoicism is not a personality trait. It is not coldness, and it is not emotional suppression. Stoicism is a philosophy that began in ancient Greece and was later refined in Rome by thinkers such as Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius. At its core, Stoicism teaches one simple and powerful idea: some things are within your control, and some things are not. Your thoughts, values, choices, and actions belong to you. Other people's behavior, past events, and unexpected losses do not. Peace, in Stoicism, comes from placing your energy only where it is useful. Toxic positivity, on the other hand, is not a philosophy. It is a social habit. It is the belief, often unspoken, that we must remain upbeat no matter what we are going through. It tells us that sadness is weakness, anger is negativity, and grief is something to hurry past. It encourages us to replace honest emotion with pleasant words, even when those words do not match our reality. Stoicism does not ask you to pretend. It asks you to observe. When something painful happens, Stoicism says, "Let us see this clearly. Let us name it accurately. Then let us decide how to respond with integrity." Toxic positivity says, "Do not look at this too closely. Just think happy thoughts." One approach respects the truth of your experience. The other rushes to escape it. As a seeker, you deserve something better than denial. You deserve a way of thinking that allows you to feel what is real while still guiding you towards strength, steadiness, and wise action. Acceptance versus avoidance. The deepest difference between Stoicism and toxic positivity lies in how they relate to reality itself. One is built on acceptance. The other is built on avoidance. And this difference quietly shapes everything that follows. Stoicism begins with a simple but demanding practice: seeing things as they are. When something painful happens, loss, failure, rejection, illness, the Stoic does not pretend it is pleasant. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, in his private writings, to describe events in plain, factual language. Not, "This is unbearable," but, "This is difficult." Not, "This ruined me," but, "This happened." This discipline of clarity prevents the mind from adding unnecessary suffering to what is already painful. Acceptance, in Stoicism, does not mean liking what has happened. It means acknowledging that it has happened. From there, the Stoic asks a powerful question. What part of this is within my control? Even in the harshest conditions, there is always something that remains free. Your attitude, your choices, your willingness to act with dignity. Viktor Frankl, in Man's Search for Meaning, echoed this Stoic idea when he wrote that between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies our freedom. Toxic positivity moves in the opposite direction. It does not pause to acknowledge reality. It rushes to reframe it. Instead of, "This hurts," it says, "Everything happens for a reason." Instead of, "I am grieving," it says, "At least it could be worse." These phrases may sound comforting, but they quietly deny the truth of the moment. Avoidance does not heal pain. It buries it. And what is buried tends to return as anxiety, resentment, or numbness. Stoicism offers a steadier path. It invites you to stand in reality, even when it is uncomfortable, and then to move forward with purpose. True peace is not built by turning away from life. It is built by meeting life honestly, and choosing how to respond. Stoic discipline is not emotional suppression. One of the most common misunderstandings about Stoicism is the belief that Stoics do not feel emotions. This could not be further from the truth. The Stoic philosophers were deeply interested in emotions, not because they wanted to erase them, but because they wanted to understand them. Epictetus taught that when something happens, the first emotional reaction arises automatically. You may feel fear, sadness, anger, or shock. This first response is not something you choose. It is part of being human. Stoicism never condemns this. What Stoicism focuses on is what comes next, the thoughts you attach to that emotion. This is where suffering grows or shrinks. For example, feeling sadness after a loss is natural. But telling yourself, "I will never be okay again," is a judgment, not a fact. The Stoic practice is to gently question such thoughts. Is this absolutely true? Is this thought helping me live well? In this way, Stoicism does not suppress emotion. It separates emotion from destructive storytelling. Toxic positivity does the opposite. It often treats uncomfortable emotions as mistakes. If you feel anxious, it tells you to think happy. If you feel sad, it urges you to stay positive. This creates a quiet message: your real feelings are not acceptable. Over time, people begin to hide their emotions even from themselves. Seneca warned that unexamined emotions grow stronger in the dark. When you refuse to acknowledge anger, it becomes bitterness. When you refuse to acknowledge grief, it becomes heaviness. Stoicism brings emotions into the light so they can be understood and released. As a seeker, you do not need to fear your feelings. You only need to learn how to listen to them without letting them control you. That is the true discipline of Stoicism. How each treats other people's pain. The difference between Stoicism and toxic positivity becomes especially clear when we look at how they respond to the suffering of others. This is where these two approaches reveal their true character. Toxic positivity often appears in conversation as quick encouragement. Someone shares that they are struggling, and the response comes back immediately. "Look on the bright side, everything happens for a reason." Or, "Just stay positive." These words are usually meant kindly, but they can have an unintended effect. They rush past the person's pain instead of meeting it. The message beneath them is quiet but powerful: your discomfort is inconvenient, and it should be fixed as quickly as possible. Stoicism teaches something very different. A Stoic understands that suffering is part of the human condition. Marcus Aurelius wrote that when another person is distressed, it is not an annoyance, it is a reminder of our shared humanity. The Stoic response is not to correct someone's feelings, but to acknowledge them with respect. It sounds like, "That is difficult," or I understand why you feel this way. This does not mean encouraging hopelessness. It means allowing someone to feel what is true before guiding them toward what is helpful. Real support does not erase pain. It creates a space where pain can be spoken without shame. When people feel heard, they become more open to wisdom. When they feel dismissed, they retreat inward. Toxic positivity closes the door by insisting everything must look bright. Stoicism opens the door by saying, "You may bring your whole experience here." As a seeker, remember this: kindness is not found in cheerful words alone. It is found in presence, patience, and the courage to sit with someone's truth. Stoicism, at its heart, is not cold. It is deeply humane. When life goes wrong, two ways of responding. When life does not go according to plan, the difference between Stoicism and toxic positivity becomes more than philosophical. It becomes practical. It shapes how you move through disappointment, failure, and uncertainty. Imagine you have worked hard towards something that mattered deeply to you, and it did not work out. Perhaps you failed an exam, lost a job, or watched a relationship fall apart. Toxic positivity steps in quickly. It says, "Everything happens for a reason," or "Just be grateful." These phrases may sound hopeful, but they often skip the most important step, acknowledging that something painful has happened. Without that acknowledgement, the mind is left holding unresolved emotion. Stoicism approaches the same moment with steadiness. The Stoic first allows the truth of the experience to be named. "This hurts. I am disappointed. I wish this had gone differently." There is no weakness in this. In fact, it is the beginning of strength. Seneca advised that when something goes wrong, we should examine it calmly, not harshly, asking what can be learned rather than who should be blamed. Next, the Stoic separates what is within their control from what is not. The outcome has already occurred. That cannot be changed. But the response, the attitude, and the next action still belong to you. This restores a sense of agency, even in difficult moments. Finally, Stoicism asks a quiet but powerful question. What is the most honorable step I can take now? This might be trying again, resting, asking for help, or choosing a new direction. Toxic positivity wants you to leap emotionally to a happy ending. Stoicism invites you to walk carefully through the present moment. As a seeker, you do not need to rush your healing. You only need to keep moving forward with honesty and purpose. Choosing grounded hope. As we come to the heart of this conversation, it becomes clear that the choice is not between being positive or being negative. The real choice is between being honest or being avoidant. Stoicism offers something that many people are quietly searching for, a form of hope that does not require pretending. Grounded hope begins with reality. It does not deny pain, loss, or uncertainty. Instead, it says, "This is where I am, and I will meet this moment with courage." Marcus Aurelius wrote that you always have the power to make something good out of what happens to you, not by wishing it away, but by choosing to respond with virtue. This is not optimism in the shallow sense. It is confidence rooted in character. Toxic positivity offers a different kind of hope. It is fragile because it depends on everything turning out well. When life becomes difficult, it collapses. Grounded hope, by contrast, does not depend on outcomes. It depends on your ability to act wisely, no matter what unfolds. For a seeker, this difference matters deeply. If your peace is built on denying your feelings, it will not last. But if your peace is built on clarity, discipline, and self-respect, it becomes something you can carry anywhere. You are allowed to feel sadness and still believe in the future. You are allowed to be afraid and still take brave steps forward. Stoicism teaches that these things are not contradictions. They are part of being fully human. As you walk your own path, you do not need slogans to protect you from reality. You need steadiness. You need honesty. And you need the quiet confidence that no matter what happens, you can meet it with dignity and strength. That is the deeper promise Stoicism offers. As we come to the end of this reflection, I would like to leave you with something simple and sincere. You do not need to force yourself to feel good in order to be strong. You do not need to pretend that everything is fine in order to be worthy of peace. Your emotions, even the uncomfortable ones, are not signs of failure. They are signs that you are alive and paying attention. Stoicism does not ask you to become unfeeling. It asks you to become steady. It teaches you how to stand in the middle of life's uncertainty without collapsing into despair or escaping into fantasy. When things go wrong, Stoicism does not say, "Smile." It says, "Breathe. Look clearly. Choose well." If you have been caught between harsh self-judgment and forced positivity, I hope this video has offered you a gentler alternative. You are allowed to feel what you feel, and you are also capable of shaping what you do next. That balance, between honesty and responsibility, is where true resilience is born. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to reflect on how you speak to yourself during difficult moments. Are you kind? Are you truthful? Are you patient? These small inner conversations quietly shape the course of your life. Thank you for spending this time here. If you found value in this discussion, please consider supporting the channel by liking this video and subscribing. It allows this work to reach others who may be seeking the same quiet clarity. Until we meet again, take care of yourself not by denying what hurts, but by meeting it with courage, wisdom, and compassion.